What's going on, everyone? Welcome to QVO Games. My name is Juan. Thank you so much for clicking on the video and being here to watch it. I appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you. This week's video is going to be about the games coming to retail the week of October 30th. We have 4 games that were mentioned, and most of the games are going to be in November. However, we do have some bleed from the third week of October 30th into November. So I will go ahead and showcase those games. It's 4 different games. 2 of them are actually have been waiting for a long time. One of them is a collector's edition release, which is pretty interesting. The game itself was released 2015. I'll let you know which game that is when we get there. Let's get this video going. Let's make it a short video. If you are a publisher and you want your games featured on this weekly video, please reach out to me through email or a DM through one of the social media platforms. That way we can make sure we showcase your games. However, keep in mind, please release me the details the Friday before your game's release week. I typically record these videos on Saturday, and I prep Friday and I shoot on Saturday to release on Monday morning. So I want to make sure I get your game in as soon as possible, and so we don't have that effect of maybe you reach out to me and I just already filmed the video. We can definitely make some exceptions, and we'll work on that when it comes to it. But if you want your game featured, please give me the details on Friday before your game's release week to get this game featured. Please keep in mind, I am covering the US release dates. These games may have already been released in other regions of the world, and if they have been released in other regions of the world, you may have already seen showcases or even like videos, promotions, reviews of the game already, or you might even own the game already, potentially. So keep that in mind, that while we are covering US retail release dates. Also keep in mind, there's still a global shipping crisis going on, and it's a lot of crazy stuff with the mail going on, even strikes with the Royal Mail apparently in Europe, from my understanding. So keep in mind that there may be delays in a lot of different games releasing in different parts of the world, specifically the US even. So if that does happen, I will make sure to update you on the game's new release date on the new week of the video. Keep that in mind. Let's get these games showcased. First things first, coming up first is Burnt Island Games' Fall of the Mountain King. Fall of the Mountain King it's a prequel to In the Hall of the Mountain King. Ooh, I actually have it right here. In the Hall of the Mountain King. Yeah, I got that correct. So it's going to be a prequel to that game, essentially. However, this one is newer. This one, it was on Kickstarter not so long ago, and now it's coming to retail. It's by Burnt Island Games. The game honestly has been specifically into the Hall of Mountain King. This one as well. When they released they released a bunch of prototype copies, and a lot of reviewers actually really enjoyed it, which was an interesting. The game is interesting, right? It's an interesting choice as well, of like the way the theme and how they did things. And I want to show you guys. I've already played the video, so I want to start from the beginning just so you have something to watch here. But in the Hall of Mountain King, essentially, is going to be a game where you're playing as trolls and gnomes are invading. So you're playing as trolls, and it's an area majority style game where you're going in with different powers, with different clans you are, and your goal is to gain honor for your clan, your troll clan being the best champion there is. When you're doing so, gnomes are invading different parts of the land, and you're kind of fighting the gnomes and your other enemy players, aka your other enemy clans. So it's going to be a area majority game, and it looks really interesting. It has some very, very, very fun mechanics. There's a lot of power up and abilities where you actually get to level up and use different abilities and take different paths to take that. This is going to be your action selection system here that you're going to use to determine what you do and don't do during the game with your actions, of course. The game has received, like I said, many. Oh, actually, did I even say? It's coming out November 2nd, by the way. The game's coming out November 2nd. I forgot to mention that in the beginning part. But yeah, November 2nd. Yeah, game looks interesting. Game looks really cool. It's a prequel to In the Hall of Mountain King. This Fall of the Mountain King. I have not played In the Hall of Mountain King. I've only watched playthroughs and read reviews about it. Read and watched reviews about it, actually. And that's why I was really excited. I actually have both games right next to me on my couch here, and I'm really excited to play them myself. This is going to be Fall of the Mountain King by Burnt Island Games, releasing November 2nd. Next game coming up is going to be a really popular one called Splendor Duel, which is a dual version of Splendor. There has been a lot of these style of games recently. And by the way, November 4th. This releases November 4th, Splendor Duel by Space Cowboys. I played Splendor a couple times. It's actually a fun game. I like the engine building in it. It's very simple and straightforward. You want to just pick it up and play it, explain it pretty quickly. I think like 5-10 minutes to explain the game. And after that, just kind of play it through. This is going to be Splendor Duel, which is a 2-player game. The 2-player game is going to be a head-to-head style game, and it's just like Splendor, but now it's head-to-head, and there's a couple little tweaks to the mechanics. The game itself is going to be using, let me find it, here it is. So you're going to be able to take jewels, but I think before in Splendor, you usually have jewels on a side, like a little pool of them on the side. This is going to be more a common board, where you're going to be able to grab 3 jewels. However, they have to be adjacent. And if you look, there's arrows here, so when you line up the jewels, or when new jewels are spawned in, or you declare that you want to refill the board, it's an action. You're going to line them up, push all these jewels down, and follow the pathway, and then they leave as well. So eventually, the bag will run out of jewels, and the game's pretty much coming to an end. The game ends pretty similar to Splendor. You achieve a point total, and you basically win the game or trigger game end. There's going to be a thing about these games is they're making it more competitive, I think, right? A dual version, it's just a little more cutthroat, which isn't bad necessarily. It's just different for people who are looking for a more of a competitive game. Splendor is a competitive game, but I feel like it's a lot more harder than this one. This one's, like I said, very cutthroat. You run out of jewels eventually, which are the tokens here in the middle. You can run out eventually, or taking someone else's jewel, or messing up their kind of. If you notice they have a set of cards in front of them, they're going to go for a certain jewel. You can kind of unadjacent them. That way, they only take one jewel instead of multiple jewels. So you can, and you have the option to take 1, 2, or 3 jewels, but they have to be adjacent either orthogonally or diagonally. It's like I said, it's going to be a more competitive game, and it's going to be more cutthroat. A lot of people who already love Splendor are going to really enjoy this dual version if you just like a more competitive style game. This, like I said, this is a really common trend right now within board games as well. There's a lot of dual or like 1v1 variants of these games coming out, and that's not a bad thing. I'm all good for variability. Splendor Duel coming out November 4th. Coming out November 4th as well, it's going to be Stellarion by Impatience. So it's a 1-2 game. It's a 1-2 player game, and this one's interesting. I think I did mention November 4th it's coming out, Stellarion. So it's going to be a game where your whole goal is to collect all 8 different galaxies cards. The cards are kind of lined up here a little bit, and the way you do that is by a deck management system. And the deck management system is going to be you're going through cards and discarding cards from the top to activate different effects to try to find those specific cards that you need to win the game. It's almost like a solitaire style game, but you're collecting specific cards instead of playing a deck of cards and trying to line up and create sets of 12s, or a set collection, I guess, at that point. So the goal of the game, collect all voyage cards, and the voyage cards are scattered throughout 8 different decks, and there's going to be different effects where you discard and activate different cards to move the deck around and shuffle it to find these specific cards. That's honestly, that's really vague information about this game. However, I for some reason could not find a rule book out of it at all. This game specifically was actually released in France as well, and now it's coming to America with an English release. So it's going to be Stellarion by Impatience coming out November 4th. Next game is going to be Clacks, coming out November 4th as well. Clacks, a Discworld board game. So this game originally came out, it's by Splendor Games, by the way, and it originally came out 2015. They're releasing a collector's edition, and this is all based around the Discworld fictional world of Terry Pratchett, I believe. Yeah, Terry Pratchett. There it goes. So his novels are going postal. So Clacks essentially is a system within those novels where people use to communicate different things, and it's a system that competes against the postal system, and they go head to head. And essentially in this game, your goal is to communicate different words to communicate different words across the Clacks by activating and comparing different patterns. And I want to show you those patterns here. However, I don't believe they have them. So let's see. This is going to be the miniatures with the collector's edition. Of course, collector's edition comes with a upgrading components. That's the big thing about it. Here it is, actually. I can show you here. So if I'm going to zoom in. Actually, we can probably just do this. Yeah. No. There we go. So if you look here, there's going to be different cards. And the cards themselves, you have to make patterns. And depending on what card you pull that has the word, it can be like thrift, right? So the T has a specific set of puzzles or little symbols that match up that you have to match by doing it on the board. And you do that by getting a specific card that lets you flip different tokens over to match up with that word. The game is fairly old, I would say. However, since the game is a little older, they did revamp a couple things and change up the rulebook. With the collector's edition, of course, you get the upgraded components. And if you're a big fan of the Discworld novels, it definitely is what would be one to pick up. It just completely is to your preference. I enjoyed the puzzle they have there. It was actually pretty interesting. The puzzle is just basically a shape matchup style puzzle where you're kind of flipping different tokens to try to match up with the card to try to submit into the clock system and beat the postal to the end goal of transporting the words. So it's cooperative and competitive as well. You can play cooperative version and competitive version. I feel like the game looks like it works better cooperatively than it does competitively. That's just my opinion. I'll have to play the game fully myself and not just read a couple of reviews and watch a couple of videos. So Clacks, a Discworld board game, collector's edition, coming out November 4th. And that is it for this week. We have 4 games I could pinpoint and match exact release dates for. We have a couple more coming out next week. It's a bigger and better lineup. And if you made it this far into the video, I appreciate it a lot, honestly, that you actually want to watch my videos all the way through, which is always great. If you are here and you're still here, if you don't mind subscribing, it doesn't cost you anything. You may or may not even be notified from my videos if you do, or even see them again. But subscribing does help the channel, and it helps me improve on everything we're doing here and how we can improve on everything, including quality. So that would be great. And if you can like and comment, that'd be awesome as well. Some great conversation on board games is always appreciated. And if you, like I said, thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and have a good one.